What is it to be a Saiyan in its purest essence? What is it to be a Saiyan in its raw power? What is it to be a Saiyan who surpasses a Super Saiyan? This is Goku, or Kakarot as Vegeta prefers to call him, the same who says that the miserable one is a genius. And yes, he really is, and Goku already has the path and guards this new form, which is the one that surpasses Ultra Instinct and brings him fully to the good old Saiyan style. I will prove to you, but not before you subscribe. So hurry so you don't miss any of the video. Ready? Also leave your like and activate the bell. Gohan said he went to his limit at that moment in his fight with Goku, so as not to lose control. Then Goku understood at that moment what he needed, which was just one thing missing for him to actually surpass natural instinct. That is, to be as primitive as possible, using the Saiyan to the max, but controlling it at the last second so that this primitive instinct does not get out of control, and he gives life to something totally different that will make him one of the strongest warriors in the entire current multiverse of Dragon Ball Super. This is too insane, guys. Gohan showing the way to Goku, what Goku truly lacks to evolve, to reach the apex at this moment, which means the apex of the current moment. This is defined in a single word, or two, actually a name in question, Black Frieza, the current apex in Dragon Ball Super, and how he would get to this level without using the hack that Gas and Granola used, and without using the time room again. Well, remembering that during Goku's training with Whis in the Granola arc, there is a moment when Goku expresses his frustration for feeling stuck and unable to evolve further. Whis, always wise and calm, responds saying that Ultra Instinct is not a fixed state, but rather something that can be refined and personalized for each fighter. He explains that Goku should not just copy the Angel's technique, but develop his own style within Ultra Instinct. Whis mentions that there is a hierarchy within this ability. He himself has greater mastery than Miras, and the Grand Priest has an even more refined level than him. This means that Goku still has a lot of room to grow and perfect his technique. Could Ultra Instinct be the future Zenkai? Maybe yes, maybe no. Anyway, Whis then challenges Goku to think differently about his evolution, saying something like, quote, "What I mean is that you have at least this space to train and grow. Doesn't that excite you?" End quote. This statement encourages Goku to continue his journey without limiting himself to what he already knows, exploring new ways to improve his power. This moment is crucial for Goku because it changes his perspective on Ultra Instinct and motivates him to seek an even more advanced level of the technique, and with the help of Bardock, his father, he succeeds, which I will explain later in the video about the importance of Bardock for this evolution. But what really is missing for a greater evolution of Goku? Well, I'll tell you that he found this recently, and it might have gone unnoticed by all of us, considering everything that happens after the Granola Saga, more specifically on Beerus Planet, where against Gohan, he finds what was missing for this new evolution, not only Gohan, but also when observing Broly. Until then, Goku was faced with something he didn't fully understand, but instinctively knew was important. The recent fight against Gohan had left marks not only physically, but also deep reflections. The clash of their fists, the determined look of the sun, the destructive calm with which Gohan controlled his new power, and the break of Ultra Instinct, all that echoed in Goku's mind as a hidden message he was still trying to decipher. And it was there, in that temporary battlefield where they had starred yet another great father and son fight, that Goku realized what was missing in his own evolution. For the first time in a long time, he was not just excited by another warrior's strength, but felt that there was something he himself had left behind, his own most primal instinct. He saw that Gohan, amid his mystic forms, managed to add the Saiyan beast within himself and not lose control. That is, Goku could remember how Ozaru was important for the Scions in the past, and thus assimilated within himself something new. That Saiyan monkey form, without fully turning into Ozaru, would be kind of a linear hybrid of this form. By watching Gohan release the beast form with total control, something not even Broly had fully managed to achieve, Goku finally understood the key he had been ignoring. Gohan accessed his power through deep emotions, not just rage, but protection, survival instinct, a visceral and animal response to danger. And Broly, in turn, was a storm of raw energy, his body resembling a Saiyan in pure state, without social, cultural, or divine training limitations. Goku saw in this something he had been repressing for too long, his Saiyan nature in its wildest state. It was strange to think about it, but the truth is that, since he became a Super Saiyan, Goku had increasingly distanced himself from what it meant to be a true Saiyan. He had transcended common forms, reached Ultra Instinct, an angelic technique, that made his movements perfect and free of intention. He had reached the divine. But what about the opposite of that? What if, instead of rising, he dived into the depths of his lineage? That was the thought that began to generate the idea of a new transformation. Not an evolution of Ultra Instinct, not a fusion with something divine, but a return to the origins, something only a Saiyan in heart and soul could awaken. The Saiyan Ultra Instinct. This concept, initially just a spark in his mind, began to become a constant fire. Goku isolated himself for days, reflecting on how to release this power. He remembered old stories, told by Raditz, Vegeta, Paragus, about how the ancestral Saiyans fought under the full moon, transforming into giant monkeys, the Oozuru. He himself had gone through that in childhood, when he lost control and destroyed everything around him. But that was just the surface. The Oozuru was raw, uncontrolled. What Goku sought was deeper. The Saiyan consciousness within the wildness, the fusion between human reasoning and animal ferocity. He needed something that was both physical and spiritual. It would be something like this. What he may have used to access this power was the fact that he began to see images in his mind, such as his grandfather Gohan, killed by his Oozuru transformation, his first confrontation with Vegeta, who had used the giant monkey form, the destruction of the Tuffle planet, the stories of Bardock. Goku was accessing something he had never had before, the ancestral memories, and how he accepted the fact of Super Saiyan, the pride of the race. This is the moment he can find and accept himself, accept what he has already done in this form, which he blocked, these memories, and this fact is linked to acceptance and growth. Vegeta went through this too, and that's why he evolved a lot, facing and accepting the sins of the Saiyans, but now in a different way. Vegeta went through one of the deepest moments of his journey in the Granola Saga. From the beginning, he carried the weight of the Saiyans' sins, recognizing that his race had been responsible for countless destructions and massacres throughout history. When he faced Granola, who sought revenge against the Saiyans for exterminating his people, Vegeta found himself in an internal dilemma. He not only recognized Granola's pain, but also felt that, in a way, he deserved to pay for those sins. This internal conflict led him to fight differently, without concern for his own survival, almost as if he was willing to accept death as a form of atonement. However, during the battle, Vegeta began to realize something crucial. He could not simply carry the weight of his race's mistakes and surrender to fate. Instead, he should use that pain and that past to strengthen himself. It was at that moment he accessed Ultra Ego, a form that reflects his true nature as a warrior. Unlike Goku's Ultra Instinct, which seeks calm and detachment, Ultra Ego is fueled by pride and acceptance of destruction. Vegeta realized that, instead of running from his identity, he should fully embrace it. He accepted that Saiyans were warriors of destruction, but that he could use that power consciously and strategically. By activating Ultra Ego, Vegeta became more powerful, but also more aggressive. This form allowed him to grow in strength as he received hits, becoming increasingly destructive. However, there was a limit. If he overdid it and completely ignored his physical endurance, he could end up self-destructing. During the fight against Granola, Vegeta demonstrated overwhelming power, but also realized he needed to balance his approach. He could not simply give himself over to uncontrolled chaos. This learning was essential for his evolution as a warrior. In the end, Vegeta not only accepted his past, but transformed it into fuel for his strength. He understood that he didn't need to die for the sins of the Saiyans, but rather grow from them. This mindset shift was one of the most remarkable moments of his journey, showing that he is not just a warrior seeking power, but someone who constantly evolves, both physically and emotionally. His fight against Granola was a turning point, consolidating Ultra Ego as a unique technique deeply connected to his identity. If Goku fully accepted the Saiyan Oozuru factor from the beginning and incorporated it into his development, he could indeed unlock a new form based on that primitive Saiyan essence. The giant monkey transformation Oozuru has already proven to be an immense power source, multiplying the user's strength by 10. However, the problem has always been the lack of control over this form. If Goku managed to integrate this wild energy into his fighting style, something similar to the Super Saiyan 4 from Dragon Ball GT could emerge, but with even greater refinement. In GT, Super Saiyan 4 is an evolution that combines the power of the Golden Ozaru with the fighter's consciousness, creating an extremely powerful and balanced form. However, in Dragon Ball Super, transformations follow a different path. focusing more on divine energy and mastery of one's own body. If Goku consciously explored this connection with his Saiyan nature, he could develop a unique technique, perhaps something that combined Ultra Instinct with the ferocity of the Ozuru. This would result in a form that not only increased his raw strength, but also his reaction ability and battle instinct. After all, Saiyans are warriors by nature, and their evolution has always been linked to surpassing their own limits. Although Dragon Ball Super has not yet directly explored this idea, it is interesting to imagine how Goku could use this aspect of his race to reach a new level of power. Who knows if Toyotaro or future writers will decide to explore this possibility at some point, kind of doing something like in Dragon Ball Daima, but without the tail factor, which had disappeared many years ago. He might start to turn into Ozuru, but not fully, only in this transformation itself. First as back pain, then as a living extension of the body. He screams, not in pain, but in surprise. His eyes turn golden, but not like in the common Super Saiyan. They had a fierce, animalistic glow. His aura began to expand, not like a flame, but like a storm of leaves swirling around the body. The hair on his arms thickened slightly, his muscles swelled. But he didn't turn into a giant monkey. He was transforming into the Saiyan monkey, and after that, he returned to himself, with only red eyes and body, but still white hair, emphasizing the Saiyan Ultra Instinct. The form was something between the Super Saiyan 4 of Dragon Ball GT and Ultra Instinct, but completely different from both. He maintained rationality, but his movements were unpredictable. He roared instead of speaking. His strikes came from all angles, as if he had learned from the movements of wild predators. Others, upon seeing him, would be paralyzed, not out of fear, but out of respect. It was like seeing a true Saiyan at his peak. This new form would have no other official name besides simply, quote, Saiyan Ultra Instinct, end quote, as a tribute to what he had been, what his race represented, and what he was now capable of controlling. Upon returning to Earth, Goku kept the transformation a secret. He knew it was not something to be used lightly. It was a state that required concentration, emotional balance, and above all, responsibility. And there he would be consecrated against Frieza. We're seeing the myth returning. Goku, with his new power, would make a mess. And there, on that battlefield against Frieza, Goku releases again the Saiyan Ultra Instinct. The roar that echoed tore reality apart. Goku's aura distorted gravity. His body moved like a hunting animal. His strikes came from absurd directions, with no apparent technique, only instinct. Frieza couldn't predict. For the first time, he hesitated, and that hesitation was enough for Goku to open a gap. With a jump reminiscent of Ozura leaps, he descended on the opponent with a strike, mixing Kamehameha with an ancestral scream. The universe trembled. After the fight, Whis only watched, intrigued. Beerus smiled slightly, as one who recognizes something he thought lost. And Goku, returning to base form, felt something strange. Not exhaustion, but completeness. As if he had finally accepted all parts of himself. The warrior, the father, the Saiyan, the earthling, the god, the monkey, the Saiyan Ultra Instinct. The new transformation, besides being powerful, symbolized a new balance. And Goku knew there was still much to explore. Because if the future of the universe was increasingly uncertain, at least one thing was clear. He was ready. And this time, not for having become something greater than a god, but for finally having become complete.